Hi guys, you know what? I've been noticing this obsession with the 1950s. Back in Jamaica, I grew up in the 1980s, we'd have one channel, JBC, Jamaica Broadcasting Corporation, and we had the benefit or, the issues with watching shows from the 1950s. JBC didn't have a lot of money, so they paid for shows that were probably aired in the US maybe 30 years before or 25 years before. But as a young child, we didn't know any better. We just saw these black and white movies or shows and thought, hey, these are great. They're moving pictures, something to do. So back in the 50s, I remember, the show about the Cleavers, and what would happen with the Cleavers was the father would go out, put on his tie, go out and work, and his wife would be at home resting in her femininity. Just imagine that. She would be at home, she'd probably load the dryer, she would probably go in and remove the dishes from the dishwasher, and she would put in a nice roast in the oven. And this sounds like the resting in femininity. This is definitely what I think the black woman empowerment space is saying. Wow, when can we get our zaddy that can provide us with this life? Because the worthless poor the black man can't provide them with that. So we need a zaddy that can provide us with this luxury life. And so this is the kind of message that's happening there. And I could just imagine June Cleaver. She would be there at home at maybe 3 o'clock. The kids come home, she's able to have them play outside a little bit, then she ensures they have a bath, and guess what, everyone gets ready for when the father comes home. She would have a bath herself, put on something nice, and she would make sure that as he comes through the door, he gets a kiss. She wouldn't burden him with the problems of the day. She'd make sure that he comes first. And once she is done, probably taking off his shoes, taking off his socks, bringing his slippers, he would sit on the couch with his newspaper and he would read the funnies to the children. What a lovely life. And then she'd tell him, hey, the roast is ready, and they'll all sit around the table, say their grace, and have dinner. That's 1950s, sounds like that resting in your femininity. And from Mr. Cleaver's side, he has a wife who will be tending to his needs, his every need. And when it comes to making a trip, when it comes to buying a car, buying a house, he makes a decision because he earns the money. That's what the 1950s showed, and that's what the 1950s created, that so-called American dream. Just adding the suburbs in there, living in the suburbs. Now, when in the 1960s came and we had women's rights and equal pay, what happened is women entered the workforce. And when women entered the workforce, over time, salaries of men and women started to get closer. And as right now we can see, the majority of families are two breadwinner households. Both parents work. Even on the white side, on the Asian side, both parents normally do work. This fantasy being sold about resting in your femininity is actually what it is, a fantasy. The upper middle class can afford that. I mean, if you're lucky enough to be married to a doctor or a highly paid engineer, then yeah, I guess so. But the reality is, the people around me, I even asked my wife, does she know anyone who basically is a stay-at-home wife? And she thought about it for a while, and she said maybe one person or two, and that's out of everyone that we know. This is not a regular thing that happens, and it's being sold by single women to other single and lonely women that this is a possibility. This is where the cognitive dissonance comes in. And now on the black manosphere side, they want a submissive woman. If both of you are earning about $40,000 a year, or you're earning 60 and your wife is earning 40 to 50,000, what kind of submission are you expecting right there? That's basically both of you are partners, and that's what I think most relationships are. That's what I am in. I'm in a partnership partnership with my wife. I mean, there are things that she buys that I disagree with her, but she says, always reminds me, that's why she works. It is her choice. She earns the money. She should enjoy it. And we try to work together to save and do all of that stuff, which you're supposed to do as a couple. That's where I think a lot of people need to mature up and see that that's the reality. It's a partnership. And also, it's not having these high goals that makes no sense. Like, the average man won't get a supermodel, and he won't get exactly the beauty that he wants, and the average woman won't get a man with the wealth that she wants. But you work together to live a decent life, to live a life that I think is fulfilling. It is very fulfilling to have. It's not extravagant. Sometimes it's mid, and that's where I think, people from the 50s, people from the 40s, they saw that you have to work together to benefit each other, to benefit the children, to create a legacy. That's the key. And I think that when we get to that mature point, and all these single people and avatars who are telling people lies about their lives, that's the thing about an avatar, including me. An avatar can create any life that they want to do, but you have to understand that even if they were living the life that they said they were living, most times I don't think it's true. How does that benefit you? The fact of the matter is, you have to evaluate it and look at it in your own life. Marriages aren't perfect. Relationships aren't perfect. We have to work hard on these things, and it's a give and take. There should be boundaries, and there should be no-goes. But most of it is working together and figuring out how to partner. So for the manosphere, submission, like, even if you are earning much more than your wife, there's no such thing as submission. You have a partner. And for women, it's going to have to be figuring out that you will have to acquire a partner that will be there with you to work through the bills, work through different things. Some people call it 50-50. I think it's 100-100, where both people work together for a better life for themselves and their family and create a legacy. Thanks, guys.